Well, I was working on simplifying the circuit to try to understand what is the minimum requirements for the circuit to function. And I've come to the conclusion that this is an improvement. I've done this before, in which I've separated the current coils. I've isolated from each other. I've isolated them from each other as well as from the circuit itself, because electrically isolated them, while magnetically they're still lumped together. So you have to imagine they're on some kind of a winding that in which they were all grouped together. Just electrically they're not connected. But I still had this legacy of a short, namely the current going around in a circle such as this, and then you get to put your sine wave generator anywhere within or upon, I should say, connected to that circle. Turns out you don't even need the circle. All you need is one leg. And you have to make sure that the leg goes from the right side of the two capacitor, or excuse me, in between the two diodes, the right side, just as it did over here. You have to make sure it goes to the positive poles of the coils, and the negative poles of the VC, the voltage coils, goes to the spark gap. Okay? So over here we have the negative of this VC1 and the negative of this VC1 both go to the spark gap, and then the positive goes to the right side in between the two diodes D1 and D4, and the positive of VC2, the voltage coil 2, also goes in between diode 1 and 4. So the scheme is correct, but I got rid of the other leg that would have come out here and gone around somewhere, God knows where, I've lost track already. Now the sine wave generator, you get your choice where to connect it. It's either on this leg here, or here, or here, this one up here. So you get this whole leg up here to connect it to, or this shorter one here, because it's all the same node, basically. We can find out. Where are node numbers without my glasses? There's our node numbers. So node number 1 is all of this, and it includes this. So it's all the same node, and so that's where you get your choices. It's good to see the node numbers so you see how things are arranged, how the simulator looks at it, which is the correct way to look at it in terms of nodes. So you see where your choices are to put the sine wave generator, anywhere on node number 1, all the way here, inclusive of this, because it's all 1. See? Node name 1. It even tells you. Now let's turn that off because it's distracting. Where are we? Now what I did differently was I lined up all the coils. See, I was trying to do what I thought, I'm going to have to redo my book, my ebook, because I was mistaken. I thought, well, yeah, I have to take the simulator as my authority. See, I don't have anybody else to go on. I certainly don't have my own experience because I've never built anything. The only circuits I've ever built are bionic circuits, and they're very powerful. And I even tried to get a patent, but nobody wanted to market it, so I got one unit in my room. So far I've told one person about it, he can share it with his friends, but I have it at earthinglife.info, sort of. I think it's a little confusing, that website, to tell you the truth. It's not very explicit. It's really quite simple device. But anyway, that's the only thing I've ever built, tested, and know works, because I have a body for a dowsing wand. Dowsers, they use a stick to look for water. Well, my body is that stick. And so I can design a bionic circuit just on my proximity to the circuit while I sleep. It's kind of like Edgar Cayce sleeping on a book and knowing the contents the next day. Well, if it's true, I kind of can do the same thing with a circuit without directly connecting to it. If I bring my body in close proximity to it and not directly connect, so a kind of loose coupling, and sleep on that aerial connection, so to speak, to the circuit, I can figure out how the circuit works and how to make changes, and then eventually connect it to my circuit directly to get the full benefit. And that's what I did in the beginning of my development of that bionic. It's an earthing enhancement device. So that's all I've ever really done in terms of experimentation, because I have electrocuted myself a few times, and I'm not really that interested in getting into high voltage. Yet I am interested in solving the problem of electric cars being dependent on humongous sized battery packs. And if the Amman brothers could do it, why can't I? And if Tesla did it for his pure Serra conversion, why can't I? I just never dreamed I'd be able to after about 5 years of initially desiring to. But it was the simulator that trained me. And it trained me as an authority, and I have to take it as an authority. And people claim, no, you shouldn't. You're taking advantage of simulator error. $4,500 simulator? I don't think so. That's why I eventually graduated to microcap, because I've always presumed the simulator to be an authority, regardless of which one it was, unless it prevented me from creating surges, which everycircuit.com will do that. And I think the current model, the current version of Paul Falstad's simulator will also suppress surges, because I showed him what I could do, and he decided he didn't like it, so he changed it. But microcap, I haven't tried version 12, the current version, but this is version 11 I'm using, and it works fine. It makes it hard. It makes it really hard. It took me a few years before I could graduate to microcap. Let me tell you, I had to go through LT Spice first before I could get to microcap, because microcap is very strict, much more strict than LT Spice, and LT Spice is more strict than Paul Falstad simulator from 2017. It was very, very strict. Microcap is very, very strict. Yet it is possible to create over unity, such as I have done. So, but what I found, there's a peculiarity to it. It's strict because it's intelligent. It's actually a robot. It's an artificial intelligence, and I've seen this happen. It's not just policies. I thought it was policies. And maybe it does have a few surge suppressing policies that I managed to bypass. But be that as it may, regardless of that caveat, in which designers prevent us from being realistic, because they think for some reason, well, we got to suppress surges anyway. Why would anybody want to encourage them? You certainly can't get anything useful out of it. And I'm still a little bit of a shade of a Doubting Thomas. I'm still wondering whether or not the circuit can have any practical use. But be that as it may, I can create all the energy I want to, even though it's negative power factor, in which the current and the voltage is out of phase by half a cycle. Despite all of that singular caveat, I can create just about any amount of energy I want to, but I have to conform to how the simulator views reality. And when it looks at lumped conductors, it's looking at air core coils that are not iron core, like this transformer sitting over here. So when I lump them together using this over here to lump them, these 4 coils, you know what else I got to do, I found out? I got to align them all in exactly the same orientation. I haven't tried everything out, such as the coil winding, but I have tried the polarity with the coil winding, and they all have to line up. I tried them, I'll show you which one I tried initially. I tried this one, thinking, oh, what a smart boy I am. I'm going to make a toroidal iron core and put the lumped air core coils on them, just by drawing this brown square, which the simulator ignores because it's a drawing, and I'm somehow going to defeat, and then I'm going to change the orientation of the coils so that they're opposite to each other if we go around the perimeter of this circular toroidal iron core, this imaginary iron core I stuck in here as a drawing. So the positive terminal of VC1 here is pointing the same as the positive terminal of VC2 if you go around the circle, but it's the opposite of the positive terminals of CC1 and CC2. And I also made in opposition the coil winding itself, not just the positive versus the negative terminal. So I did everything the opposite, which is what I thought would help correct the negative power factor, yet still give me over unity, but I was cheating. And you know what? The simulator didn't let me get away with it. Guess what happened? I got a warning. Guess what warning I got? I didn't even have to run it. All I had to do was go up here. It's called transients, Alt plus the number 1, in which you get to change the parameters of your transient analysis, such as the duration. And it gives me, oh, no warning message. Why is that? Wait a minute. It gave me a warning message. It prevented me from doing so. Why did it prevent me? Why is it letting me do this now? Oh, I know now. That's right. The warning had nothing to do with it. I had a mistake. I didn't have the right parameter in this coil. I didn't have it defined. The series resistance for CC1. Okay, so I corrected that and I got no warnings. But look what happened when I run it. I run it. Okay, we wait. And then we go take a reading on one of the loads, load 3. And look what I get. I get 40... I get millivolts when I should be getting something else entirely. So it knows what I did. It knows that these coils are not lined up like they're supposed to be because they're all lumped together, 4 of them on one single cylindrical coil form. No toroidal. I don't get to do this. No. I don't get to pass go. I do not get to collect $200, so this is wrong. I can do this. I can isolate the current coils. I've done it before. But now I got this circular loop I didn't bother to get rid of, and lo and behold, it turns out I can get rid of it and just have one. But the coils have to line up. They're lumped. So, what does lumping mean? See, I'm getting in it. This is why I take simulators to be my authority. And the more pricey they are, the more costly the simulator is, the more teaching, the more of an education I get when I bother to take the time to fiddle with it and see, well, I'm going to be a smart little Frank Sinatra. I'm going to do it my way. Yeah, except my way don't work. So all I did, though, I did manage to simplify the circuit. So now it's really simplified. Not that it couldn't probably be taken further. I don't know. You know, I can only imagine that, you know, maybe it could even be simplified further. Don't these look like little batteries? A little drawing of a battery? They're not, of course. It's a loop. Now, oddly enough, when I made the error before, when I showed you the toroidal brown drawing representing a iron core, and it gave me an error message, it was simply because CC1, I had not defined the equivalent series resistance of that coil. It was undefined. And yet the error message said I had a loop, a coil loop, which I'm not allowed to do, it said, due to Kirchhoff's voltage laws, which I probably was violating. Well, now I don't get the violation. Go figure, you know? So if I am violating Kirchhoff's voltage law, maybe I did break the simulator, you know? Because I created a looped coil. Yet, I did not loop the voltage coils. Well, I did, to each other, but not to themselves. The current coils are really small in their inductive value, so maybe it doesn't matter. And maybe the simulator figures it's no big deal. You know, I've never isolated the voltage coils because they are the backbone to this circuit. It's really a step-down transformer is what it is, because all your energy initially is building up in the voltage coils, and only because it's a lumped step-down relationship with the current coils does it transfer energy that manifests as exclusive current in these current coils, because they have so little resistance. There's no reason for them to exhibit any voltage. And plus the fact that the current and the voltage between these 4 coils or between the whole, within the whole circuit for that matter, is separated by half an AC cycle, all the current now wants to go in reverse. Instead of traveling from the voltage areas of high voltage, such as these two voltage coils, towards an area of low voltage, such as these two current coils, it wants to go in the opposite direction. And since there's no energy being supplied here, of course their voltage goes to zero, but their current remains high. And because they're all lumped together magnetically, they all share their energy that gets transferred to the transfer coil, which has a 10% coupling relationship with all of these four coils. And so all of these energies, the high voltage of the voltage coils and the high current of the current coils, mixes, it blends in the transfer coil. And this is the leverage point. This is the fulcrum of this device. This is why the transfer coil is so essential for creating a surge, because these energies that are lumped together, they don't get to cross-interfere because they're busy separating from each other, but they get to cross-interfere and lump together, or blend, I should say, not lump, but blend within the context of this transfer coil. And that's where the magic happens, is that at least one component in this circuit gets all of these energies blended after I've gone to all that trouble to separate them so that they can be boosted. Because this is a voltage-oriented device. This whole circuit is based on Joseph Neumann's energy machine. And his machine was a voltage-oriented machine. It did not exhibit any current to speak of, but mine does. And that's why I consider it a further evolutionary development of the Joseph Neumann energy machine, because I get to have current. And now I get to use it because I put a transformer in the circuit, which I've never done before until now. So now I can carry a load, an electrical load, which is something Joseph Neumann was never able to do, and I was never able to do up until now. So it's been a two-stage development in which I get to produce current, which he never got to do, and use it, which up until now I've never been able to do. It's quite remarkable, I think. And oscillate. This is a surge-oriented device. And oscillate the surges so you don't blow the thing up, but it surges. His device was not a surge-oriented device. It did not exhibit surges. My simulations of it did not exhibit any surges. But this does. So it's actually three different things that this circuit does that his device did not do. I overlooked that. So I've managed to simplify things, but I realize now you can't put this on a toroidal iron core, and you can't even put it on an iron core. It has to be air core. So what I imagine is that the voltage coils probably are bifilar, like I've imagined up until now. They're still bifilar, but they're wrapped first onto an air core bobbin. Let's call it that for simplicity's sake, a bobbin. And then on top of that, or underneath, or in the middle of, I still don't know where these current coils go, but they have to go in there and they have to be wound in the same direction. But because they're so teensy-weensy, in all likelihood, the minimum windings of 2 wraps for each of these is all you're going to need. And then you do these with regard to how you did those, whatever the ratio happens to be. I did it reasonable. I think it's 7,000 to 1, 7,071. So 7071 wraps, or ratio wraps, between the voltage and the current. So you double that, that's what? 14,142 wraps for each of these voltage coils, and then 2 wraps for each of these current coils, but on the same form. So it's, I think the closest person who I know, who's famous, of course, who's done stuff like this is Donald Smith, in which he has coils on top of coils. But there's another guy, McFarlane. What was his first name? Daniel McFarlane. He did something similar, coils on top of coils. So it's probably going to have to be something along those lines. I'm not sure exactly, I'm not clear what, because the simulator doesn't make any distinctions. It just lumps them together, and you got to figure out the geometry of how you actually manifest that, because I have here a 99% coupling coefficient among the 4 of them, and that's pretty important. If I lower that, I might have problems, so let's try that. Let's let's get, I don't show that, do I? So let's show it to make it easy. And let's put it over here. And let's change this to 90%. Or let's, yeah, 90. Let's try 90. And then let's simulate this and see what happens. Because, you know, you gotta wrap them, and you gotta have a pretty strong coupling. But without an iron core, I don't know if that's possible. So maybe I'm not being realistic after all. Maybe I'm doing a fantasy simulation that's not buildable. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? All we need to see, what I do is I look at my load area and I look at the raw voltage. And if I see the staccato wedge shape to the voltage, then I know I'm okay. You know, if I don't see it, maybe I'm not doing a long enough duration. If I see it rising, escalating, then I just have to lengthen the duration of the simulation. But if it's not rising, you know, initially it won't rise. It'll be just like noise, like the very same current input coming from the sine wave generator. It literally looks like noise. But if you look at it more closely, zoom in terms of time, you can see a semblance of sine waves, but they're erratic. Their amplitude, their frequency, they're just like my ex-girlfriend's contractions. The first of the 3 days that she was in labor were very erratic. So that's the way it kind of looks. So let's take a look-see here at what we've got. Noise and no gain. So 90% don't work. So you don't get to go down to 90%. Let's see where the cutoff is. Let's pick something in between, maybe 6. So there'll be and then within that cutoff, you've got, you know, you want to stay safe. You don't want to be at the boundary and risk the possibility that in the real life you've already crossed the boundary, because the boundary has shifted in real life by comparison to the simulator. So that's the that's really the only, should be the only main difference between a simulation and an actual build, is that your parameter boundaries might shift a little bit, because I've seen that happen when I do something in microcap and then I do the exact same circuit in LT-Spice. I'll get slightly different results, but they're still within the same ballpark. So that's the only thing you got to worry about, is you don't want to have your components, the values of your components, positioned near the boundary of losing your over unity, you know, or exploding for that matter. You don't want to go to the two extremes, so you want to stay somewhere in the middle. So there still is a risk. If you build this circuit, there still is the risk that it might blow up or not work, because I made the parameters of the components too close to some boundary condition for the transference of knowledge from the simulator to an actual build to be accurate, or to be approximate. To be approximately accurate. Without jeopardizing the outcomes. See, now even 96% coupling coefficient doesn't work. So let's try 98. Ooh, 98. Ooh. This is what I do. I try this, I try that. Trial and error, making little changes, hopefully, because if I make big changes, then I lose track of what I managed to succeed or fail at doing. So everything's got to be small changes, one change at a time, usually. And that's why it takes so long and so much work to come up with anything. But at least it gives me the freedom to be oblivious to, oh, you're doing it all wrong. You're not supposed to do it that way. And this way I get to do as I please, you know, without any formal training of authority telling me what's right and what's wrong. You know? It's kind of like vigilante driving, you know, no laws. You just, well, if you don't hit anybody, it's okay. As soon as you hurt somebody, then we hurt you to the same degree. If you run into somebody's car and do a certain amount of damage, then we'd get to do the same damage to your car in case that didn't happen to your car. If somebody loses their limb, then we get to chop off your limb, you know. Go back to the good old days of was it Babylonia? Hammurabi, and the steel of Hammurabi, and all the laws, and one of them was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So maybe we should go back to that, and then and then the people who want to take their life into their hands and be careless drivers, okay, we let them do it, but they only get one chance to to do it right, or to do it wrong, I should say. Oh, I'm crying already. That sounds like a horrible thought. I know. It would make you scared to walk out on the street and cross the street, knowing full well that anybody can do as they please. But the penalty, oh, but I can get away with it. Yeah, see, now that we go to the reason why I'm thinking of this, you go to the movie. Oh, what was the movie with, The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis and a few other major players. And there's this guy at the booth, at the ticket booth, to buy a ticket for a pleasure cruise. And he tries to impersonate somebody else who's already bought the ticket. And so what happens? He goes under lockdown. And he says, "Put your hands on the circles of the window and do not move. The police will be here shortly." Okay, okay. Because he would be electrocuted and zapped, tased, in place where he's standing if he even moved his body 1 inch. And doesn't conform to what the robot is telling him to do. So it's like, that's what we need. We need cars that will shut down for you on your behalf and zap you if you try to monkey and prevent that from happening. Police will be here shortly to give you a ticket and arrest you. Oh, God. Yeah, it may go that. I bet it'll go that with all these robotic cars that drive themselves. Of course, they won't have to. Oh my God. Oh my God. Even 98. Oh my God. Now I got to make sure it still works at 99. This is when you have to make sure that you didn't do something you didn't know what you did. Oh my God. It's got to be 99%. Wow. Good luck. So you see, I'm still a dreamer. A man of La Mancha, or I should say a boy of La Mancha. So, what man? There's no man involved. I'm just a little boy. I'm a teenager. Yeah, a teenager. Because I got drive, but I've got this weird seat. There you go. I'm getting my classic 2.066 mega ohm peak to peak on my load number 2. On my resistor here, all because I took the coupling coefficient for these 4 inductors, lumped inductors, to 99%. Now I'm curious. Let's take it to 1. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, this is crazy. This is like, all right, well, you can't weld them together. You can't get any closer than that. Welding, but then they're not going to be separate coils, and they're not going to be coils. So how do you make them 99% on an air core coil? I could be have made a boo-boo. See, that's why I wanted to go to an iron core. I shouldn't make this brown. Brown is misleading. That makes you think it might be an iron. Uh-oh. Yeah, see, the simulator didn't like it. And most simulators don't like the number 1. They like it if you do 0.99 or some derivative thereof. So that's what I needed to do. Where is it? I needed to take it to this extreme. So now you know what you've got ahead of you if you try to build this. It won't be easy. I tried to make it easy. I mean, I really did. And 10% between this transfer coil and these voltage coils is basically what you have during certain portions of the rotation of a squirrel cage rotor in regard to its relationship with the main coils of a single-phase AC induction motor. Not an EV. I don't know how an EV is constructed. But yeah, see, there's the nice plateau of voltage on the inductor. And the current is doing something else. Let's see, the current. What is that? load number 3. So the current is I. Whoops. Without my glasses. Load number 3. Okay, so all we see is a rise. Oh, I have to take it much longer than that. Yeah. Yeah, because it's DC, right. This is a DC load, so you're not going to see nice squiggly little sine waves. So everything here is DC. So the current is rising, and the voltage is somewhat steady. Yeah, you have to do a lengthy duration to be able to see anything, and I don't want to go there. So trust me, I've already done the schematics. You download it from here. No. No, here, yeah. is.gd/mixed power supply, and that's actually a zip file that has all of the screenshots and the circuits themselves, the microcap simulation files. So I think I'm going to have to change this color, but it has to be something that has contrast. And I thought brown was better contrast, but brown is misleading. You might think it's... I'm going to have to change it to something else. Oh, I don't know what to do. But at least... let's see, what color can we make this? Ugh. Everything else is big except this. How about this color? Will that be nice? Ooh. Pretty. But for air core, you would think it should be gray. Ooh, that's too dark. I don't get to change shades of gray. Oh, there's gray. Oh, that's too light, though. If I make it cyan, that's... Oh. Well, that kind of stands out, and it's light. If I make it green... no, I think cyan might have potential. I don't know, magenta was kind of nice. Ooh, too dark. Too dark. Oh, that's... has potential. Makes me want to puke, though. Oh, that's worse. I think I like cyan. Nice and bright, cheery. You can make it any color you want if you don't like... Ooh. No, see, it's the wrong contrast. It's not good contrast. Oh, how am I going to do this? I have to stick with magenta? How about a light magenta? That's not light enough. Good grief. Oh, here's my shades of gray. Oh, that's not even light enough. Oh god, that is so pathetic. Why can't I get a good color? Ooh, that's too dark. Oh, I'm having a tough time here. That has potential. No, that does not. And that's too dark. Oh, I see, it's right here. Ooh, it could be bright orange. No, that's too dark. That's too dark. Well, that's what I had before. Seems to be my favorite. Oh, there we go. See, I like orange. That's the problem. I may just have to stick with cyan. Oh, I don't like cyan. I don't want this. I don't want that. It's too dark. Good grief. Maybe I should stick with brown. Oh. Wait, no, this had potential. Because it's close enough there. I might as well stick with that. Okay, whatever. Oh, now I know what I can do. I can take this and change the background color to be the same color. Oh, that's weird. Oh. Anyway, I don't want to take up your time. All right.